The hunt for the killers took 3 weeks of careful investigation. Jin Ho worked day and night, following threads of information across the galaxy. He tracked the sale of human weapons to a black market dealer on an Ashara border world. From there, he followed money transfers to a shell company in Torvac space. The shell company led to a weapons cache on an abandoned mining station, and at that station, finally, he found the evidence he needed. "We have them, Captain," Jin Ho announced, entering Kyung-Soo's office. He looked exhausted but satisfied. The Restoration Front, that's what they call themselves. Former military officers, slave traders, criminals, anyone who lost power when we arrived. How many? Hard to say exactly. Maybe a few thousand across the whole galaxy. But they're organized. They have cells on dozens of worlds, and they're planning more attacks. Kyung-Soo studied the data on his screen. Names, faces, locations. Do we know where their leadership is? We do. They're hiding on Rask, a Velcrin colony world. The local government either doesn't know they're there or is looking the other way. Send a message to the Velcrin government. Tell them we're conducting an operation on Rask to apprehend criminals. Give them 6 hours to arrest these people themselves. If they don't, we will. The Velcrin government's response came in 4 hours. Prime Minister Velmora appeared on the view screen, her scales dark with anger. "We have arrested the Restoration Front members on our homeworld, but Rask is refusing to cooperate. The colonial governor is sympathetic to their cause. Then we have your permission to operate on Rask?" "You have more than permission, Captain. You have our request. These terrorists murdered your people. They've also been attacking Velcrin citizens who support the treaty. We want them stopped." "Understood. We'll take care of it." 12 hours later, a team of human special operations soldiers boarded a stealth transport and headed for Rask. Leading them was Lieutenant Hyun-woo, a quiet man with cold eyes who had trained for exactly this kind of mission. Beside him sat Yuna, the former cargo ship pilot who had survived by pure luck, having been on a supply run when the Horizon was attacked. She had volunteered to help identify the attackers. "Remember, we want them alive if possible," Hyun-woo told his team as they approached Rask. "But if they resist, protect yourselves. The mission comes first." They landed at night on the outskirts of a small city where intelligence suggested the Restoration Front's headquarters was located. The building was an old factory, abandoned years ago when the mining operations shut down. Now it housed enemies of peace. Hyun-woo and his team moved through the darkness like ghosts. Their armor could change color to match their surroundings. Their weapons were silent. They had trained for situations like this for years, and now that training would be tested, the assault was over in 4 minutes. The special operations team breached the factory from 3 sides simultaneously. Flashbang grenades disoriented the occupants. Stun weapons dropped most of the Restoration Front members before they could react. Those who tried to fight back were subdued with non-lethal force. When it was over, 37 people lay on the factory floor, hands bound behind their backs. Among them was Kelsor, the former Velcrin soldier who had organized the attack on the Horizon. Yuna walked among the prisoners, studying their faces. When she reached Kelsor, she stopped. "That's him," she said quietly. "I recognize him from the security footage. He was on my ship." Kelsor looked up at her and smiled. "I should have killed you too." Hyun-woo stepped between them before Yuna could respond. "That's enough. Get them loaded onto the transport. We're taking them back to Bastion 1 for trial." The trials took place over the following month in a specially constructed courtroom on Bastion 1. It was the first international criminal court in galactic history, with judges from Earth, Velcrin, Ashara, and Torvac civilizations. The proceedings were broadcast across the galaxy. Kelsor and his co-conspirators were charged with murder, piracy, and terrorism. The evidence was overwhelming. Security footage showed them boarding the Horizon. DNA evidence placed them at the scene. Financial records proved they had bought weapons illegally. "Do you have anything to say in your defense?" the chief judge asked Kelsor. The former soldier stood, his scales shifting through angry colors. "You call this justice? You invaded our galaxy. You destroyed our way of life. You forced your morality on us. We were defending ourselves. You murdered 15 unarmed civilians, the judge replied calmly. There is no defense for that. They were invaders. They were traitors, the judge corrected. Carrying medical supplies to a colony that had requested them. You didn't kill soldiers. You killed doctors, engineers, and merchants. You killed people who were trying to help. Kelsor had no response to that. The verdict was unanimous, guilty on all counts. The sentence was imprisonment for life on a secure facility where they would be kept humanely but never freed. It was the harshest sentence humanity had ever imposed, but it sent a clear message. Humanity would show mercy to those who deserved it, but not to murderers. The galaxy watched and took note. With the restoration front broken, peace began to settle across the stars. Trade routes that had been dangerous for centuries became safe. Colonies that had lived in fear could finally relax. The changes were small at first but grew more significant every day. On Bastion 1, Heiwan continued her diplomatic work with Sujin. They mediated disputes, negotiated treaties, and helped different species learn to understand each other. It was exhausting work, but deeply rewarding. Do you ever miss Earth? Sujin asked one evening, as they shared dinner in the station's observation lounge. Every day, Heiwan admitted. I miss the sky, real sky, not view screens. I miss rain. I miss the ocean. But I wouldn't trade this for anything. We're building something important here. We're building the future, Sujin agreed. Across the station in the medical wing, Dr. Yunji finished her shift. She had spent the day treating patients from 6 different species, each with their own unique biology. It was challenging work, but human medical knowledge combined with alien techniques was producing miracles. She had saved lives today that would have been lost a year ago. In the engineering section, Sang-Woo supervised a joint human-alien team installing new power systems. The aliens were teaching humans about their reactor designs. The humans were teaching aliens about their efficiency improvements. Together, they were creating technology better than either could produce alone. And on the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Kyung-soo received a message from Earth. More ships were coming. The second fleet would arrive in 3 months, bringing reinforcements and fresh crews. Earth's orbital shipyards were working at full capacity. We're really doing this, Taemin said, reading the message over Kyung-soo's shoulder. We're changing the galaxy. We're trying to, Kyung-soo corrected. Whether we succeed depends on what happens next. What happened next came from an unexpected direction. The Torvak Empire's deep space monitoring stations detected something at the edge of explored space. Signals, not natural phenomena, but clearly artificial. Something was out there in the darkness between galaxies, and it was moving. Crown Prince. Torvalek brought the information to Kyung-soo personally. The young prince had become an unlikely friend to humanity over the past months. Our scientists don't recognize these signals, Torvalek explained. They don't match any known civilization. Whatever is out there, it's not from our galaxy. Kyung-soo studied the data with growing concern. The signals showed patterns that suggested organization, intelligence, purpose, and they were getting closer. How long until they reach explored space? At their current speed? Maybe a year, maybe less. Kyung-soo looked at the data, then at Torvalek, then back at the data. He made a decision. Call a meeting. Representatives from every civilization that signed our treaty. We need to prepare. Prepare for what? For whatever is coming, Kyung-soo said quietly. We united this galaxy to end its internal conflicts. Now we're going to find out if that unity can face an external threat. The meeting took place 2 days later in Bastion 1's largest conference hall. Representatives from over 100 civilizations gathered with humans, Velkrin, Ashera, and Torvak taking the lead. Kyung-soo stood before them and showed them the data. The mysterious signals, the calculated trajectory, the estimated time of arrival. When he finished, the room was silent. What do you suggest we do? Velmora asked finally. We prepare, Kyung-soo said simply. Not for war, not yet. We don't know if these newcomers are hostile, but we prepare to defend ourselves if necessary. Together, The Galactic Defense Coalition, Torvalek said. That's what we should call it. Not human forces, not Velkrin or Ashara or Torvak. All of us, united. The motion was put to a vote. It passed unanimously. Over the following months, the coalition took shape. Human ships trained alongside alien vessels. Tactical doctrines were shared. Defense networks were established. Species that had been enemies months ago now stood side by side in joint military exercises. And through it all, the mysterious signals grew stronger. Whatever was coming was massive. It was powerful. And it was headed straight for them. But the galaxy was ready. For the first time in recorded history, every major civilization stood together not in conquest or competition, but in unity. They had learned the lesson humanity tried to teach them. The message from Captain Kyung-soo broadcast across every communication channel in the galaxy at precisely the same moment the Velkrin military infrastructure went dark. Haewon watched from the command center as alien news networks picked up the transmission. Within minutes, every civilization in known space would see Kyung-soo's face and hear his words. People of the galaxy, Kyung-soo began, his voice calm but firm. Last night, humanity took action to prevent a war. The Velkrin War Marshal Krelvax was secretly building an armada to attack our station and destroy the peace we're trying to build. We discovered his plans through our surveillance network. The screen split, showing evidence, satellite images of the hidden shipyards, intercepted communications, video of warships being assembled in secret. The proof was undeniable. We could have destroyed these ships while they were still being built, Kyung-soo continued. We could have killed thousands of Velkrin soldiers who were only following orders. We chose not to. Instead, we disabled their military infrastructure without harming a single person. Their shipyards are offline. Their weapons facilities are non-functional. Their command centers are dark. But every Velkrin citizen is alive and safe. He paused, letting that sink in. This is humanity's way. We do not seek conquest. We do not desire destruction. But we will defend ourselves and those who trust us. The Velkrin civilian government now has a choice. Arrest those who planned this attack, sign our treaty, and rebuild with our help. Or refuse and spend the next decade rebuilding alone. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, beings of every species looked at each other with the same expression, awe mixed with terror. Humanity had just demonstrated that they could strike anywhere, anytime, without detection. They had the power to destroy civilizations but chose restraint instead. It was the most frightening mercy anyone had ever seen. On the Velkrin homeworld, the civilian government wasted no time. Within hours, War Marshal Krelvax and his co-conspirators were arrested. The Dominion's Prime Minister, a careful politician named Velmora, requested an immediate meeting with Captain Kyung-soo. We had no knowledge of the War Marshal's plans, Velmora insisted when she appeared on the view screen. Her scales were a pale blue, the color of Velkrin shame. The military acted without civilian approval. I believe you, Kyung-soo replied. That's why we disabled your military instead of destroying it. But this can't happen again. Your military needs oversight. Checks and balances, we agree, Velmora said quickly. We're already drafting reforms. The military will answer to civilian leadership from now on. No more secret shipyards. No more independent operations. Good, then let's talk about the treaty. The negotiations took 3 days. In the end, the Velkrin agreed to all of humanity's terms. No more slave trade. No more biological weapons. No more destroying inhabited worlds. In exchange, humanity would help rebuild their infrastructure and share defensive technology to protect them from external threats. The Ashara Collective signed the treaty the same day, eager to establish trade relationships with humanity. Their merchant fleets were already making plans to visit Bastion 1. The Torvak Empire was more complicated. Emperor Tormak was ancient even by Torvak standards, and he didn't like change. But his son, Crown Prince Torvalek, was different. The prince had been one of the 3 delegates who first visited the Indomitable. He had seen human technology firsthand. More importantly, he had seen human compassion. Father, our caste system is killing us, Torvalek argued in the throne room. Around them, courtiers and nobles listened with varying degrees of shock. The lower castes are barely surviving. The upper castes are corrupt. We're rotting from within. The caste system has worked for 10,000 years, Tormak replied. No, it worked for 9,000 years. For the last 1,000 we've been in decline. You know this. Our population is shrinking. Our colonies are rebelling. If we don't change, we'll collapse within a century. And you think these humans can help us? I think they're offering us a chance to save ourselves, Torvalak said. But only if we're willing to change. The debate raged for days. In the end, Emperor Tormak made a decision that surprised everyone. We will sign the human treaty, he announced. But the caste system will remain. However, we will reform it gradually over one generation. The humans will have to accept that some changes take time. Kyungsoo did accept it. He understood that you couldn't change a civilization overnight. The Torvak had agreed to the critical points. No slavery, no biological weapons, no planetary destruction. The rest could be worked on over time. With all three major powers now in treaty with humanity, smaller civilizations rushed to sign agreements. Within a month of the Velkrin incident, over 200 worlds had formal relationships with Earth. Bastion 1 transformed from a military outpost into a true hub of galactic civilization. But success brought new challenges. HFY 1 found herself commanding a small team of diplomats and cultural specialists. Among them was Su Jin, a young woman from Earth who had spent her entire adult life studying alien civilizations through the stealth probe's data. I never thought I'd actually meet them, Su Jin admitted one day as they walked through the station's market district. Alien traders hawked goods from 100 worlds. I spent 10 years analyzing data and it was all abstract. But this is real. It's overwhelming, HFY agreed. Yesterday I mediated a trade dispute between species that can't even breathe the same atmosphere. The day before I helped negotiate custody arrangements for a child whose parents are from different worlds. You're doing amazing work, Su Jin said. You're building bridges. But not everyone wanted bridges built. On a distant world called Rask, a Velkrin colony far from the home world, a man named Kelsor watched the news broadcasts with growing anger. He had been a soldier in the Velkrin military before the shutdown. His ship had been preparing to join Krelvax's armada. Now his entire life's purpose had been taken away by aliens who claimed to know better. They humiliated us, Kelsor told his gathered followers. They made us look weak in front of the entire galaxy. What can we do? One of them asked. Our fleet is gone. Our weapons don't work. Human weapons work just fine, Kelsor said with a cruel smile. And I know where to get some. He wasn't alone in his thinking. Across the galaxy, individuals and groups who had profited from the old ways began to organize. Slave traders who had lost their livelihoods, military officers who had lost their power, crime syndicates that had operated in the chaos of constant war. They began to call themselves the Restoration Front. Their goal was simple: drive humanity out of the galaxy and return to the old ways. They were few in number but motivated by desperation and anger. Their first attack came without warning. Human cargo ship traveling between Bastion 1 and a nearby colony was ambushed by 3 unmarked vessels. The ship's captain, a woman named Yuna, sent a distress signal before the attackers disabled her engines. "This is cargo vessel Horizon," Yuna broadcast. "We're under attack. Unknown hostiles. They're boarding us." The transmission cut off. When the Indomitable arrived 2 hours later, they found the Horizon drifting in space. The cargo was gone. The ship's reactor had been sabotaged, and all 15 crew members were dead. Kyungsoo stood in the Horizon's cargo bay looking at the bodies covered in white sheets. His hands were clenched into fists at his sides. These were his people. He had promised to protect them, and he had failed. "Sir, we've analyzed the attack patterns," Jinho reported quietly. "The weapons used were human-made. Smuggled somehow." "Find out how," Kyungsoo said, his voice cold as ice. "Find out who did this, and find out where they're hiding. Captain, with respect, we have thousands of ships to protect now. We can't guard every cargo vessel." "Then we build more ships," Kyungsoo replied. "We train more crews. We establish patrol routes. This will not happen again." He turned to face his intelligence officer. "Jinho, I want every resource we have dedicated to finding these attackers. Use the probe network. Lean on our new allies for information. Whatever it takes." "Yes, sir." As Jinho left, Haewon approached Kyungsoo. She had been examining the scene with the security team. "Captain, this was personal. They didn't just kill the crew. They made them suffer first. This was a message." "What message?" "That humanity isn't invincible, that we can be hurt, that there are still people who will fight us." Kyungsoo looked at the covered bodies again. 15 people who had left Earth to build a better galaxy. 15 people who would never go home. Then we send a message back, he said quietly. We find these killers. We bring them to justice. And we show the galaxy that attacking humanity has consequences. The peaceful expansion of humanity into the galaxy had claimed its first casualties. The war for the galaxy's future had begun, not with great fleets and dramatic battles, but with blood spilled in a dark cargo bay in the void between stars. And Captain Kyung-soo knew that more blood would be spilled before it was over. The galaxy held its breath for 2 weeks. Humanity used that time wisely. The Indomitable and her sister ships established a perimeter around an empty region of space. Then something extraordinary happened. The largest human vessel, a ship called Foundation, began to unfold. Haewon watched from the observation deck as the massive vessel transformed. Sections that had seemed like armor plating extended outward. Hidden compartments opened and deployed prefabricated structures. Within 48 hours, what had been a single ship became a space station 3 times its original size. "Welcome to Bastion 1, Sang-woo said, coming to stand beside her. "Humanity's first permanent home away from Earth." "It's beautiful," Haewon whispered. "It's practical," Sang-woo corrected with a smile. "But I suppose practical can be beautiful too. We have docking bays for 200 ships, medical facilities that can handle every known species, and enough living space for 10,000 people. Are we expecting that many visitors?" "Captain Kyung-soo is," Sang-woo said. "He thinks once the galaxy sees what we're offering, they'll come in droves." He was right. The first to arrive were not the major powers but the smaller civilizations. Independent worlds tired of being caught between larger empires. Mining colonies that had been exploited for centuries, species that had been oppressed or enslaved. They came carefully at first, sending small ships and cautious delegations. Haewon met most of them. It became her unofficial job, greeting visitors and showing them around the station. She walked through corridors with beings of every shape and size, answering questions through translation devices. "Why are you doing this?" a small reptilian trader asked her one day. His name was something unpronounceable, but he asked to be called Rin. "What does humanity gain?" "Partners," Haewon replied. "Friends. A galaxy where we can all prosper together." "No one does something for nothing," Rin insisted. "There must be a price." "There is," Haewon admitted. "We expect you to treat other species with respect. No slavery. No biological warfare. No destroying inhabited worlds. If you can agree to those terms, humanity will offer you protection, trade, and technology sharing." Rin stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed, a chirping sound that the translator rendered as amusement. "You're serious. You actually mean it." "We do." "Then my people will sign your treaty. The Velcrin have been threatening us for years. With humanity backing us, perhaps we can finally tell them no." Stories like Rin's became common. Within a week, 47 independent worlds and species had signed treaties with humanity. Within 2 weeks, that number doubled. The major powers watched with growing alarm as their spheres of influence began to crack. But not everyone was happy about humanity's arrival. Deep in Velcrin space, War Marshal Krelvax studied reports from his intelligence officers. The human station was growing stronger every day. More ships arrived from their mysterious homeworld. More aliens flocked to their banner. If something wasn't done soon, the Velcrin Dominion would lose its position as a galactic power. "We should have destroyed them when they first appeared," Krelvax growled. One ship could have been overwhelmed. They had 7 ships hidden in stealth, his second-in-command reminded him. "We didn't know. Then we gather enough ships that it won't matter how many they have hidden. We mass our entire fleet and crush them before they grow stronger. The civilian government won't approve it. They're considering the human treaty." Krelvax's eyes narrowed. "Then we don't ask for approval. We act, and when we've won, the civilians will thank us." In secret shipyards across Velcrin space, warships began to gather. Krelvax was building an armada large enough to overwhelm even the humans' superior technology through sheer numbers. He would need time to gather his forces, time to position them correctly, but he was patient. In 3 months, perhaps 4, he would strike. Humanity would never see it coming, or so he thought. Aboard Bastion 1, Intelligence Officer Jin Ho studied his screens with growing concern. He was a quiet man, preferring computers to people, but his job was vital. Humanity's vast network of stealth probes and satellites fed him information from across the galaxy. "Captain, we have a problem," Jinho said, entering Kyung-soo's office without knocking. That alone told Kyung-soo something was wrong. Jinho was usually very respectful of protocol. "What kind of problem?" "The Velkrin are massing ships quietly. They're using old shipyards that supposedly shut down years ago. They're pulling vessels from reserve fleets and upgrading them." Kyung-soo felt his stomach tighten. "How many ships?" "Best estimate? 5,000 capital ships plus support vessels, maybe more. That's their entire military." "Yes, sir. And there's only one target that would require that kind of force. Us," Kyung-soo finished. He stood and walked to his window, looking out at the station bustling with life. Alien traders mixed with human engineers, children of a dozen species played in the common areas. It was everything he had hoped to build. And now someone wanted to destroy it. "Can we defend against that many ships?" Kyung-soo asked. "If they all came at once, it would be difficult. We'd win eventually, but we'd take losses. Possibly significant losses. We need to stop this before it starts," Kyung-soo said. "But we can't fire first. We need to be better than that. Captain, with respect, if we wait for them to fire first, people will die." "I know." Kyung-soo turned back to Jinho. "That's why we're not going to wait for them to fire. We're going to make sure they can't." "Sir, how many stealth ships do we have in position near Velkrin space?" Jinho checked his data. 12, sir. They're monitoring the shipyard activity." "Good. I want them to prepare for Operation Silent Night. We discussed it with Earth Command as a contingency. Looks like we need to use it. That's aggressive, sir." "Aggressive would be destroying their fleet while it's still in dock," Kyung-soo said coldly. "What we're going to do is merciful. Get me a secure channel to Earth Command. I need approval for this." 8 hours later, after an intense discussion with Admiral Park and the Earth government, Kyung-soo received his approval. He called together his senior staff in the main conference room. "We have confirmation that the Velkrin are preparing to attack us," he announced without preamble. "We also have authorization to neutralize the threat before it materializes. We will not destroy their fleet. We will not kill their soldiers. But we will make it impossible for them to wage war against us or anyone else." "How?" Yoonji asked. She had joined the senior staff recently, her medical expertise valuable in planning humanitarian operations. "We're going to show them that mercy has teeth," Kyung-soo said. He activated a holographic display showing the Velkrin shipyards and military installations. "Our stealth ships have been in position for weeks. They've deployed nanomachine swarms at every critical installation. These machines have been dormant, waiting for activation." "Nanomachines?" Sang-woo leaned forward, interested despite the grim situation. "What kind?" "The kind that can dismantle complex machinery at the molecular level," Kyung-soo replied. "When we activate them, every shipyard, every weapons facility, every command center will simply stop working. Not explode. Not kill anyone. Just stop. They'll be defenseless," Taemin observed. "Temporarily," Kyung-soo agreed. "Long enough for their civilian government to arrest the war marshal who's planning this attack and negotiate a real peace. We'll give them back their military capability once they sign the treaty and agree to oversight." "And if they refuse?" Haewon asked. "Then they'll have to rebuild from scratch, which will take years," Kyung-soo said. "Either way, the threat is neutralized." The senior staff looked at each other. What Kyung-soo was proposing was unprecedented. An attack that wasn't an attack. A war won without firing a shot. "When do we do this?" Taemin asked. "Tonight," Kyung-soo said. "Before Krelvax can launch his attack. Before anyone else has to die." That night, as the rest of Bastion 1 slept, 12 stealth ships sent a simultaneous signal to nanomachine swarms scattered across Velkrin space. The machines, each smaller than a single cell, activated and began their work. In shipyards across the Dominion, reactors simply stopped producing power. In weapons facilities, computers experienced cascading system failures. In command centers, communication networks went dark. All across Velkrin military infrastructure, critical systems failed in perfect synchronization. Not a single person died. Not a single shot was fired. But in one night, the Velkrin Dominion's ability to wage war simply vanished. When Krelvax woke the next morning to reports of the catastrophe, he knew exactly who was responsible. He also knew he had lost before the battle ever began. Humanity had made its point. Mercy was not weakness. It was the most terrifying strength of all. The news spread through the galaxy faster than anyone expected. 3 days after the battle, every major civilization knew about the humans. They knew about the mysterious warship that had appeared from nowhere. They knew about shields that couldn't be broken and weapons that struck with impossible precision. Most importantly, they knew that a new player had entered the galactic stage, and this player didn't follow the old rules. Captain Kyung-soo sat in his ready room, reviewing reports from Earth Command. The messages were encrypted and had taken 2 days to arrive even through humanity's advanced communication network. Admiral Park wanted to know everything: what the aliens looked like, what their technology was capable of, what their political structures seemed to be. Kyung-soo had answered all those questions. But he had also asked for guidance. Should humanity reveal itself fully? Should they share their technology? Should they explain where Earth was located? The answer had been simple: use your judgment. You're there. We're not. Do what you think is right. Sometimes Kyung-soo hated being in command. Captain, the alien delegation is requesting permission to come aboard. Haewon's voice came through the intercom. 3 ships. 1 from each of the major powers. How many individuals? 3. 1 representative from each government. They're calling it an emergency diplomatic council. Kyung-soo stood and straightened his uniform. Grant them permission. Have security escort them to conference room 1. I want scanners on them at all times. If they're carrying anything that could be a weapon, politely confiscate it. Yes, sir. 30 minutes later, Kyung-soo entered the conference room. 3 aliens sat at the table, and despite all his training, he couldn't help but stare. The first was tall and reptilian, with scales that shimmered in different colors depending on the light. This was Ambassador Velthara from the Velkran Dominion. Her eyes were cold and calculating. The second was shorter, with multiple limbs and a body covered in fine fur. Chief Diplomat Ashurinar from the Ashara Collective. His voice, when he spoke through the translator device, sounded like music. The third was massive, built like a bear but walking upright, with armor like skin. War Prince Torvalak of the Torvak Empire. He looked like he could tear a person apart with his bare hands. Welcome aboard the Indomitable, Kyung-soo said, taking his seat. I'm Captain Kyung-soo, commander of this vessel and representative of humanity. Where do you come from? Velthara asked immediately. No pleasantries, no small talk. Straight to business. A planet called Earth, it's not on any of your star charts. How long have you been watching us? Ashrinar's voice was gentler but equally direct. Kyung-soo had decided days ago that honesty was the best policy. 50 years. We've had stealth probes observing galactic civilization since before I was born. The 3 aliens looked at each other. Torvalak spoke for the first time, his voice deep and rumbling. Why reveal yourselves now? Because we're ready, Kyung-soo said simply. For 50 years we watched and learned. We saw your wars, your politics, your technologies. We waited until we could defend ourselves against any threat. That time has come. Defend yourselves? Velthara's scales shifted to an angry red color. You attacked our fleets. Your fleets attacked us first, Kyung-soo corrected her calmly. We simply defended ourselves and chose not to kill anyone in the process. You're all alive because we showed restraint. Restraint? Torvalak laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You destroyed our weapons with casual ease. That wasn't restraint. That was a demonstration of power. Yes, Kyung-soo agreed, it was. And here's what you need to understand. What you saw was us holding back. We could have destroyed every ship in that battle. We chose not to. The room went quiet. The 3 aliens looked at each other again, some silent communication passing between them. What do you want? Ashrinar finally asked. Peace, Kyung-soo said. Trade, cultural exchange. The same things most civilizations want when they meet for the first time. And if we refuse? Velthara challenged. Then you refuse. We won't force you. But we will defend ourselves and we will defend others who ask for our help. Others? Torvalak leaned forward. What others? Anyone who needs it, Kyung-soo replied. He nodded to Haewon, who activated a holographic display in the center of the table. We've been watching, remember? We know about the slave trade. We know about the biological weapons. We know about the planets you've destroyed to make room for colonization. The hologram showed images that made even Kyung-soo's stomach turn. Slave markets where sentient beings were bought and sold. Planets where viruses had been released to kill native populations. Children working in mines under conditions that would kill them before they reached adulthood. This will stop, Kyung-soo said firmly. Humanity will not tolerate these practices. Not anymore. You have no right to dictate to us. Felthara stood, her scales now a furious crimson. "We have the power to back up our words," Kyung-soo said, his voice calm but hard as steel. "That gives us the right. You can work with us voluntarily or we will make you change. The choice is yours." "This is madness," Torvalak said. "You're one ship. One species. You think you can change a galaxy that's been running the same way for thousands of years?" Kyung-soo smiled. "We're not one ship." He pressed a button on his chair. The view screen on the wall activated, showing the space outside the Indomitable. 7 more human warships appeared, emerging from stealth like sharks rising from deep water. Each one was as large and as deadly as the Indomitable. "These are the Defiance, Resilience, Courage, Justice, Freedom, Hope, and Valor," Kyung-soo explained. "Earth's first deep space fleet. And there are more being built as we speak." The 3 aliens stared at the screen in shock. Ashranar was the first to find his voice. "How? How did we not detect them?" "Because we didn't want you to," Kyung-soo said. "Our stealth technology is decades ahead of yours. We could have ships in orbit around your homeworlds right now and you'd never know." "Do you?" Felthara demanded. "No," Kyung-soo said honestly. "We're not interested in invasion or conquest. We just want to make something clear. Humanity is here to stay. You can be our friends, our trading partners, our allies, or you can be obstacles that we have to work around. But either way, the old ways are ending." "You're threatening us," Torvalak said quietly. "No," Kyung-soo shook his head. "I'm making you a promise. Help us build a better galaxy, and we'll share our prosperity with you. Our technology, our medicine, our knowledge. Refuse, and we'll still build that better galaxy. We'll just have to do it without you." The conference room was silent for a long moment. Then Ashranar spoke, his musical voice subdued. "We need time. Time to consult with our governments. Time to understand what you're offering. Take all the time you need," Kyung-soo said, standing. "But while you deliberate, know this. Every day that passes, more people suffer under the systems you've built. Every day that passes, humanity's patience grows thinner. We gave you 50 years by staying hidden. We won't wait another 50 years for you to decide to do the right thing." He gestured to Haiwan. "Lieutenant Haiwan will escort you back to your ships. When you're ready to talk seriously, we'll be here." The 3 aliens left without another word. When they were gone, Haiwan returned to the conference room. She found Kyung-soo standing at the viewport looking out at the stars. "That was quite a threat, sir," she said quietly. "It wasn't a threat," Kyung-soo replied. "It was a promise. Humanity didn't come to the stars to be bullies. We came to be better than we were on Earth. Better than we were when we almost destroyed ourselves. Do you think they'll agree?" "Some will, some won't, but it doesn't matter." He turned to face her. "The galaxy is about to change, Haiwan, whether they like it or not." Outside the viewport, the human fleet hung in space like silent promises of a new future. The galaxy had been warned. Now it had to decide. The battle had been raging for 3 hours when reality itself tore open. Captain Kyung-soo stood on the bridge of the KDSF Indomitable, watching the viewscreen display a scene of chaos. 2 massive fleets clashed in the darkness of space, their weapons painting the void with streams of plasma and laser fire. Hundreds of ships, some as large as cities, fought over a small mining colony that neither side truly needed. It was senseless. It was wasteful. It was exactly what humanity had been watching for 50 years. "Sir, the spatial distortion is stable," Lieutenant Haiwan reported from her station. Her fingers danced across holographic controls. "We're coming through clean." The Indomitable emerged from the fold in space like a predator stepping into a clearing. 3 kilometers of angular steel and composite armor. The human warship dwarfed most of the alien vessels engaged in combat. Its hull was dark, almost black, with no decorative elements or bright colors. Every surface spoke of one purpose: war. "All stations report ready, Captain," Commander Taemin said from the tactical station. "We have full power across all systems." Kyung-soo nodded slowly. He had gray hair at his temples despite being only 45 years old. The weight of commanding humanity's first deep space warship had aged him. He studied the battle unfolding before them with the eyes of a man who had seen too much death in his lifetime. "They haven't noticed us yet," Haiwan observed. "They will," Kyung-soo said quietly. As if responding to his words, both alien fleets suddenly ceased fire. Ships that had been trying to destroy each other moments ago turned their sensors toward the Indomitable. Kyung-soo could imagine the confusion on those alien bridges. The confusion would soon turn to fear. "Captain, we're being hailed." the communications officer announced. Multiple channels. Over 40 different language patterns. Can we understand them? Kyung-soo asked. The translation software is working on it, sir. Give it a minute. Kyung-soo walked to the center of the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. He had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. First contact, the moment when humanity would announce itself to a galaxy that didn't know they existed. He had hoped it would be peaceful, perhaps at some neutral meeting ground. Instead, they had emerged into the middle of a war. Translation complete, Captain, the communications officer said. They're demanding to know who we are and what we're doing in their space. Their space? Kyung-soo raised an eyebrow. Last I checked, no one owned the void between stars. Open a channel. All frequencies. He waited for the signal, then spoke clearly. This is Captain Kyung-soo of the Korean Defense Space Force vessel Indomitable. We represent humanity from the planet Earth. We come in peace and request that you cease hostilities immediately. There was a long silence. Then weapons fire resumed, but not between the two alien fleets. Now some of their ships were turning toward the Indomitable. They're targeting us, Taemin warned. Raise shields, Kyung-soo ordered. But do not fire. Not yet. A brilliant lance of plasma shot across space from one of the larger alien warships. It struck the Indomitable's forward shields and simply vanished, absorbed by the barrier of energy that protected the human vessel. The aliens had never seen shield technology like this. Shield strength at 99.8%, Sang-woo called out from engineering. That didn't even make us work up a sweat, Captain. More weapons fire came, this time from multiple ships. Missiles, lasers, particle beams, and exotic weapons that Earth scientists had only theorized about. All of it crashed against the Indomitable's shields and accomplished nothing. The human warship sat in space like a mountain, unmoved and unmovable. Captain, they're massing for a coordinated strike, Haewon reported. Both fleets. They're actually working together now. Kyung-soo smiled without humor. Humanity's first diplomatic achievement, we made enemies into friends by giving them a common target. Sir. Taemin looked confused. Never mind. How many ships are preparing to fire? 20 capital ships, sir. Plus support vessels. If they all fire at once, they won't even scratch the paint, Kyung-soo said. But we can't just sit here and take it. They need to understand something important. What's that, sir? That mercy is not the same as weakness. Kyung-soo's voice grew cold. Ready all weapon systems. Target their ship's weapon ports only. I want them disabled, not destroyed. Make every shot count. Captain, are you sure? Taemin asked. We've never fired on another species before. They fired first, Kyung-soo replied. We gave them a choice. They made it. Now they live with the consequences. Weapons Officer Ji-woo, you are authorized to engage. Yes, sir. Ji-woo's hands moved across her controls with practiced precision. The alien fleets fired as one. The space between their vessels and the Indomitable filled with enough destructive energy to vaporize a small moon. It all crashed against the human shields in a display of light. That would have been beautiful if it wasn't meant to. Kill the shields held. Then the Indomitable returned fire. Railguns mounted along its spine launched. Projectiles at a fraction of the speed of light. Each shot was calculated by computers that could process 1 million scenarios per second. The projectiles struck alien weapon systems with surgical precision, tearing through armor and destroying gun ports without breaching the ship's hulls. Pulse lasers followed, cutting through alien shields as if they weren't there. Missiles launched in coordinated patterns, each one maneuvering around countermeasures with intelligence that seemed almost alive. In 7 minutes, it was over. 32 alien capital ships drifted in space, their weapons destroyed but their crews alive. Not a single ship had been destroyed. Not a single reactor had been breached. The Indomitable had disabled an entire combined fleet without taking a single casualty. Silence filled the bridge. Even the crew who had trained for this seemed shocked by what they had accomplished. Status report, Kyung-soo said quietly. All alien vessels disabled, sir, Taemin reported. Life support intact on all ships. We're receiving multiple surrender signals. Power consumption? Kyung-soo asked Sang-woo. 23% of reactor capacity, Captain. We barely tried. Kyung-soo nodded. He had made his point. Now came the harder part, making peace. Open a channel again. All frequencies. When the signal was ready, he spoke. This is Captain Kyung-soo. You attacked us without provocation. We responded with restraint. Your crews are alive because we chose mercy. Remember that in the days to come. Humanity does not seek war, but we will not be victims. We are willing to talk. The choice is yours. He closed the channel and looked at his crew. They had done well. They had represented Earth with honor, but Kyung-soo knew this was only the beginning. News of this encounter would spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Humanity had announced itself to the cosmos not with words of peace, but with a demonstration of overwhelming power. The galaxy would never be the same. Sir, we're detecting FTL communications bursts from the alien fleets, Haewon said. They're reporting this encounter to their governments. Let them talk, Kyung-soo said. He walked back to his command chair and sat down, suddenly feeling very tired. Let the whole galaxy talk. They were going to find out about us eventually. At least now they know we're not easy prey. Outside the viewports, damaged alien ships began to limp away into the darkness. The Indomitable remained in place, a silent guardian watching them go. Humanity had taken its first step into a larger universe. There would be no going back now.